My name is William Wallace, and this is my bicentennial project. I'm going to be speaking to my grandmother at my house in Mobile, Alabama, about her father and how he helped put the first man on the moon.
I guess the most historical thing that I have ever felt really close to was when man landed on the moon. In 1958, the summer that I turned 8 years old, my dad moved the family to Huntsville, Alabama to go to work in the space program. And Huntsville was a very small town then. When World War II is over and Redstone Arsenal closed down, the businesses just almost all of them went under. And it didn't look like much of a place to come to. I think my mother was a little horrified. But at any rate, we moved to Huntsville. Daddy bought a house that my mother had never laid eyes on because it was so hard to get housing. You bought first thing you could find. And I can remember when Mother went to buy school clothes for us that year, she couldn't find any clothes in town for us. And we had to go back to Atlanta where we had lived before and get our school clothes. So it was a very different place from what it is now. They worked on the rockets at Redstone, and they would test fire the rockets out on the base. And we probably lived at least 30 miles or so from there. But whenever they test fired a rocket, all the dishes in our kitchen would march across the shelves and the windows would rattle. You could hear it that far away. And I can remember as a young girl, they had an open house day for the families one time. And we went, and one of the things we got to do, besides seeing Daddy's office, was to watch a test firing of a missile. And they took us out on this hill a mile away from it. And it's sitting up there on this anchor thing, metal thing that holds it up like you've seen with it. And they start pouring tons and tons of water down it because the missile doesn't take off. It's going to stay stationary. And it gets so hot that, there's concern about weakening the stand, So anyway, they're pouring all this water down, and then the thing starts going off. And it is just unbelievable to be that close to it and hear it go off. So anyway, that's a very vivid memory for me, and the dishes rattling and whatnot. The summer I was 19 in 1969 is when man walked on the moon. And that summer, I was in North Carolina working so that I wasn't home with my family when it happened. But I had stayed up late that night so I could watch and see with a bunch of other people, see man walk on the moon for the first time. And even today, I can get goosebumps thinking about it because it was just such a momentous occasion. And you probably don't get it because, man's been going to space since way before you were ever born. But for us, it was just something magical. It was just so new, and there were so many unknowns about it, or were they going to be all right? Were they going to get there and get back? And, were they going to be all right walking on the moon and doing all things they were going to do? So it was very different from now, where people kind of take it for granted, It was not that way back when I was a kid growing up. So anyway, we watched him walk on the moon, and I went back to my room and I wrote my dad a letter because, of course, I felt like he had just about done it single-handedly. He worked on the program, and I was so very proud of him and wanted to let him know. And he wrote me back. It's one of the few things that I have from my dad, but I brought it with me, and I will read you the part about what he says about men walking on the moon. He was very well educated. He says, Marco Polo braved an unknown world, taking a land route to China. Christopher Columbus braved an unknown world, taking a sea route to America. Mike Collins, Neil Armstrong, and Edwin Buzz Aldrin Jr. braved a nameless unknown, taking an air and vacuum route to the moon. It is known that in 2 cases, tremendous impetus was given to man's knowledge and capabilities and expanded his universe. I am confident that the ultimate good to mankind will follow the same exponential curve in this case. So he would, in his own way, Daddy was not the explorer, but he had that in him. He wanted to research that. He was so proud to be a part of it. So that's, I guess, the closest historical thing that I feel most connected to in my lifetime, although there have been many events. But that's an Alabama event, and very close to me.